Jordan has spent 3 months looking for old service records. The folder still is not complete, so Jordan waits. But what if waiting is not the only responsible option? And what if an intent to file is not the claim Jordan thinks it is? Here is the central idea for today's conversation. Do not wait for a perfect file, but do not confuse an intent to file with a completed claim.
Welcome to the Veteran Benefits Reset Podcast, where we help veterans and their families better understand the VA disability benefits process one step at a time. I'm your host, Cameron Burrell, a U.S. Army veteran and founder of VetBiz Media. Today, we are talking about the intent to file, what it may do, what it cannot do, and how to use the time afterward without rushing into an incomplete or inaccurate claim. This is an independent educational resource. It is not legal or medical advice, and it does not replace guidance from a VA accredited veteran service organization, claims agent, or attorney. Rules and procedures can change, and individual circumstances matter, so verify current information through official VA resources. Veteran to veteran, the goal is simple: facts over frustration, education before action, and one responsible next step.
Picture Jordan a little more clearly. Jordan remembers going to sick call during an overseas assignment. Years later, Jordan has a current treatment note describing sleep problems and has missed several shifts at work. But one important service record is still missing, and Jordan is not sure what the medical documentation means. Those facts do not decide a claim. They show what Jordan needs to document and verify. The problem is that Jordan believes every document must be found before taking any step at all. That is the readiness trap. An unfinished folder can be a reason to make a plan. It does not have to be a reason to guess, and it does not have to become an excuse for indefinite delay. In plain language, an intent to file is a notification to the VA that a claimant intends to seek certain benefits and may need additional time before submitting a complete claim. Depending on the circumstances and current VA requirements, it may relate to an original claim, a supplemental claim, or a claim for increased benefits. That sentence has several qualifications in it, and the qualifications matter. The exact rules, submission methods, and time periods can change. Check va.gov or contact the VA for current instructions before relying on anything you hear here. Think of the intent to file as a preliminary step connected to timing. It is not the finished application.
Why does the date get so much attention? Generally, if the VA receives an intent to file and a complete claim is submitted within the applicable period, that earlier date may affect how the effective date is considered. May affect. That is not the same as will control. The type of claim, the facts, the evidence, the timing, and exceptions can all matter. An intent to file does not automatically create the earliest possible effective date in every situation. It does not erase an earlier decision, repair an inaccurate filing, or guarantee retroactive compensation. That distinction matters. An intent to file may preserve a potential place in the timeline. It does not promise where the timeline will end.
Now ask the more important question. What does an intent to file not prove? It does not prove that a condition is connected to military service. It does not prove that a current disability exists. It does not choose a rating level. It does not establish eligibility or entitlement to compensation. And it does not replace the complete claim that may be required afterward. The VA still has to evaluate the applicable rules, the evidence, the medical information, and the facts of the individual situation. A date can be important, but a date alone cannot carry the whole claim. That is why I keep coming back to this. Do not wait for a perfect file, and do not mistake a preliminary date-related step for proof.
So what should happen during the waiting period? Start with 3 simple places to organize information. One is your military history. Gather what you can about service dates, duties, assignments, injuries, treatment, exposures, and relevant events. If you do not remember an exact date, mark it as something to verify. Do not fill gaps with guesses. Another place is medical evidence.
Keep current records, older treatment notes, test results, medication information, and provider details together. Note where each document came from and when it was created. The third place is functional impact. Write down what is happening in daily life. Missed work, disrupted sleep, difficulty concentrating, movement limitations, or trouble completing ordinary tasks. Use honest examples. Do not exaggerate, and do not minimize what is actually happening.
Veteran to veteran, I understand why a half-finished folder can feel like a reason to wait. Many of us were trained to complete the mission with the information already in hand. But benefits research often works differently. You may need to act carefully before you know everything. That does not mean acting blindly. It means recording what you know, identifying what you do not know, and finding the right source for the next answer. Create one page called Questions for an Accredited Representative. You might write, what type of filing am I considering? What current VA instructions apply? What date should I record? What evidence is missing? Which records can I request? What should I ask my healthcare provider? Would a VA-accredited VSO, claims agent, or attorney be appropriate for my situation?
Here is where people often get tripped up. They wait indefinitely because they are trying to make the file perfect, or they submit an intent to file and assume the important work is finished. Some people rely on an old video, a social media post, or a friend whose claim had completely different facts. Others assume a representative, family member, or online system handled a submission without saving confirmation. Slow down enough to verify. Keep copies. Record the date, the type of benefit involved, confirmation details, and any follow-up instructions. If information is uncertain, label it uncertain. Accuracy is more valuable than false precision. And never treat this episode, a rumor, or another veteran's timeline as a substitute for current official instructions.
Let's return to Jordan. After reviewing the current VA instructions, Jordan records the date of the intent to file and saves the confirmation with the other claim-related documents. Jordan writes down what the filing is intended to address without adding conditions that are not understood or supported. Then Jordan builds the 3 folders. In the military folder, Jordan lists the assignment, possible treatment dates, and missing records to verify. In the medical folder, Jordan gathers the current treatment note and requests other relevant records. In the functional impact folder, Jordan writes brief, truthful examples about sleep, work, and daily routines. Jordan also contacts an accredited VSO and asks what the next filing step requires. Notice what Jordan does not do. Jordan does not assume approval. Jordan does not pick a rating in advance. Jordan does not treat the intent to file as evidence by itself. Jordan uses the time to create a clearer record.
A family member can support that organization too. A spouse, caregiver, or trusted relative might help scan papers, build a document index, or keep a calendar of appointments and submissions. But support should preserve the veteran's own voice and accuracy. A family memory can be useful without being treated as a confirmed fact. On a simple index, record the document name, its date, where it came from, and why it may be relevant. Use a paper binder, a secure digital folder, or both. Protect private information and do not post medical records or claim documents publicly. The purpose is not to create a mountain of paperwork. It is to answer a few practical questions. What happened? When did it happen? What evidence exists? What is still unknown? How does the issue affect life now?
Before relying on an intent to file, use a short verification routine. Check the current official VA information for the type of benefit you are considering. Confirm how the intent to file can be submitted and how the VA provides confirmation. Record the date and save copies of what you submitted. Then verify the period for completing the next filing step. Do not rely on memory, an unofficial deadline, or a timeline from a different claim. Finally, bring your questions to an accredited representative when appropriate. A VSO, claims agent, or attorney may help explain process and options, but no podcast can evaluate your file or predict your result. The responsible goal is not to rush. It is to avoid unnecessary delay while building an accurate foundation.
There is an emotional side to this process, too. You do not have to dramatize your experience to take it seriously. You also do not have to dismiss it because another veteran had a different job, deployment, or medical history.
Describe your own facts as clearly as you can. If you have a medical concern, discuss it with an appropriate healthcare professional. If you have a benefits process question, use official VA information or speak with an accredited representative. Those are different conversations. Knowing the difference protects you from bad information. Preparation is not weakness. It is one way to respect your own history. Earned benefits start with good preparation, but preparation includes knowing what still needs to be verified.
If you remember only one sentence, make it this. An intent to file may help preserve a potential place in the timeline while you prepare, but it does not prove the claim and does not guarantee an effective date, rating, eligibility, or compensation. That sentence helps avoid two opposite mistakes. One is paralysis, the belief that you must have every document before you can learn your options. The other is rushing, the belief that a preliminary filing means the important work is done. You can take a timely, informed step and then use the available time to verify records, seek appropriate medical care, understand the process, and ask qualified professionals better questions. Organize, verify, execute, but do not confuse speed with preparation.
Before the next episode, create one page with 3 headings: military records, medical evidence, and functional impact. Under each heading, write what you have, what you need to verify, and one question for an accredited representative. If you already submitted an intent to file, record the date, save the confirmation, and review the current VA instructions for the next required step. If you have not submitted one, do not treat this episode as a command to file. Verify the process first and consider speaking with a VA-accredited VSO, claims agent, or attorney when appropriate. One step, one record, one mission.
Thanks for listening to the Veteran Benefits Reset podcast. I hope today's episode gave you a clearer understanding of the intent to file and one practical way to use the time responsibly. Remember, this podcast is an independent educational resource. It is not legal or medical advice, and it does not replace guidance from a VA-accredited veteran service organization, claims agent, or attorney. Verify current information through official VA resources, protect your private records, and seek accredited help when appropriate. If this episode helped you, follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with another veteran, family member, or caregiver who could benefit. Download the free 7-step Veteran Benefits Reset Guide to help organize your military, medical, employment, and VA records. Visit vetbizmedia.com/veterans7. Thank you for listening to the Veteran Benefits Reset podcast. And remember, your service did not expire. Your story is still worth reviewing. Take the next responsible step.